to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call conducted by me. I sent out the minutes from the last meeting. Hopefully you got a chance to look at them.
I make a motion to accept them.
Second.
Thank you. Under previous business, our first item is the tower ladder replacement proposal. I know that the captain shared a document, 104-page document with some notes on it. The stuff in blue was by you, is that correct?
Yeah, there's not many changes. The issue that we're running into is the Mr. Warren, the dude we're dealing with from Seagreaves, the national sales director. So he has his hands in a ton of pots, so we're kind of just waiting back to hear. Last night we did get a call from the gentleman that has the donor aerial device that we planned on using. The department he purchased it from ran into a little issue with their current tower ladder, and they called him up seeing if they could use the one that they just sold him a couple years ago as basically a spare rig for now. Alex from IT, the guy that has the aerial, was like, I mean, I gotta ask these other guys because we kind of have like a handshake agreement, but also needs a ton of work done to it. So I spoke with the chief. The chief's like, it's his apparatus, you know, he can do what he, you know, pleases with it. So, but Alex came back and was like, I don't even know if this is going to be an actual thing. I just wanted to. So, case in point being, the more the village waits on this, I know we're waiting for like a solid number. I think that number is going to be around $2 million. The more time that we wait and ponder our solutions here, the chances of doing this, I don't want to say dwindle down, but there's other people that are looking for apparatus similar, so.
Understood. What's your feeling about loaning it back out? I mean, we have no say in it.
I mean, technically, the like I said, it's there. It's his apparatus. It does need work done to it. I asked him. I said, "What type of work?" He said, "It needs bucket controls. It needs tires. It needs some other stuff done." I asked him. I said, "If you do that now, will that bring down our refurbishment costs in a couple years for you to do it?" He goes, "Probably."
Okay.
So I mean, depending on how you look at it, it could help us. It could hurt us. That rig could get into an accident and the boom can be non-salvageable. But again, it's his rig. The only thing that we can control is say, hey, we really want to do this. Buy the aerial from him.
Right.
And then it's our aerial.
Then he can't use it for someone else.
That's the only thing that we can do. I think the chief has the quote from Alex on the purchase of the aerial and the refurbishment for that.
We do, and we've shared it with you. It's about $200,000 for the refurb of the boom.
It was $100,000.
I thought it was 100,000.
Okay, maybe 100,000.
That's what I thought too.
Oh wait,
We do have it though.
That's for the refurb.
that's for the aerial device.
That's
Just
boom.
the aerial device.
To purchase it and refurb it?
Purchase it and refurb it, and mount it on.
The new.
Well, the mounting.
I'm sorry, Seagrave is doing mounting. Seagrave's doing the mounting. And the captain has been diligent about pestering Denny to get back to us with a quote so we can put a number in front of the village board.
So
He's not the most responsive person.
we really need buy-in from the village board before we can ask for money to buy the 100K for the stick.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to spend $100,000 on the stick and they say no to the $2 million chassis.
Okay.
And then I would do them as best we can simultaneously to lock up the aerial device so that it doesn't go to somebody else.
All right. what needs to happen to make that happen?
We gotta get a quote in front of the village board.
Right. Okay, so,
I personally think that we can always sell the boom back to ITE. You know, we can go into an agreement, say, listen, we wanna purchase the boom. You know, and we're gonna put down payment on the refurbishment of the boom. And if they say, hey, in 6 months, they say, chief, commissioners, we don't feel comfortable purchasing this tower ladder, we wanna go a different route, and we call Ballots and say, hey, listen, we have an issue. You know, I just think the big thing, we just need to get this ball moving, we need to just create some sort of momentum. Because the more we wait, the more Seagrave's price is gonna go up,
right.
the more the wait times are gonna increase, the more someone's gonna call a Ballot from my team and say, hey, you have these booms, you know, what's
I
up?
have cash in hand.
Yeah. I don't think, Alex is definitely not that type of guy.
I understand,
You
but
know.
I understand where you're going. Okay. You want to introduce Tyler? Because I skipped over him accidentally and went right into the agenda. Tyler, I'm Rick Giampolo. This is the Board of Fire Commissioners, Mike Buckus, Jeff Armitage. We interface between the village board and the fire department. And Chief Quinn will take it from here.
The Board of Fire Commissioners oversee the fire department. They set the policy, they set the goals. We do a lot of the work. They make the recommendations to the village board of trustees. With a lot of it, they have the final say-so of you joining the department. You know, you met with the company last month. That's the company. That's who we drill with. That's who we train with. That's who we cook pancakes with. And we set our own rules about how we behave. But these gentlemen oversee the fire department with respect to actually putting out fires. There's a lot of experience between those three men. Jeff spent 800 years at West Point and was chief of our fire department for another 30 years. Rick is from FDNY, retired from there as a marshal, and Mike is a former assistant chief over in Washingtonville. They have a lot of experience. They know what they are doing. Would you like to tell them about yourself?
So my name is Tyler. I live down right behind St. Thomas on Derby Lane. Matt, your neighbor. I love the outdoors. I love to do everything outside. I do construction, so I know when it comes to structural fires, like I can understand parts of houses that other people might not, and possibly would want to pursue firefighting as a career anywhere.
Awesome. Thank you. Thanks for coming.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say, so Tyler, what do you know about what you have to do to get involved and start riding fire trucks and going and burning buildings? What do you have to do?
When it comes to training and whatnot.
Yeah.
Well, I have my physical papers in my hand right now, and then I know I have to do training out in Goshen.
Yeah.
To start that.
It's a substantial commitment, but
Oh, yes.
it's very rewarding.
Yeah.
And it sounds like you have the right frame of mind for that. But we've had some people join in the past year that they sound gung ho and then they don't show up for anything. So you don't seem like that. You seem better than that.
I'm definitely not like that.
Awesome. Welcome aboard.
They probably covered it at the company meeting. I came in at the very end last month. We are at the firehouse every Wednesday during the month at a minimum between companies, drills, and meetings and washes. So it is a substantial time commitment.
But it's worth it.
No, I have nothing.
Okay, so I'll make a motion to accept Tyler DeLillo as a member of the Cornwall and Hudson Fire Department.
Second.
Okay, all in favor? All right, so he's back in your hands, officers, and you know what you're doing.
Welcome aboard.
Thank you, Tyler. You don't have to stay. You should have gone first. I apologize. You got to hear a little bit of what we do. We meet once a month. on the
Second.
second Tuesday in this room. You're welcome to join anytime.
I appreciate it so much.
Thank you and have a good night.
All right, Tyler, take care.
Hey,
Congratulations, Mr.
try to be there tomorrow a bit early so I can get my gear and whatnot. Alright?
I'll bring the papers you want.
No, just bring it back. I look back at my emails from Denny from Seagrave. The Seagrave portion of the project for the tower ladders, about $1.8 million. This is back in October. Alex's would be about $100,000. That brings us to 1.9, as opposed to a 2.6 or $3 million new device.
And when we reviewed the specs, we trimmed some costs out of there. The biggest item off the top of my head would be the generator. We didn't see a need for it in the time of battery-powered equipment and LEDs.
Okay. Anything else on the tower ladder?
I just think the commissioners need to get a commitment from the board of trustees.
Understood.
Yes, I would say, I would be comfortable saying, hey,
Is this round up?
5 million would be the approximate cost. Now that, anywhere from 2 and 2.25 would be a comfortable range of, estimation. Because again, I don't know when Denny's gonna come back and say, here's the cost.
And what's the time frame? Did they give a time frame?
1,300 days.
How many?
1,300. You'll be chief again by then.
1,300 days.
So
And on the boom,
yes.
the $100,000. Have you spoken to him regarding saying, hey, if we did a deposit
Mhm.
of whatever number he wanted to, have you spoken to him regarding that?
Yeah, so
Thank you.
he was looking at
Don't
like
even
a
be
like
stealing
a
like
50% down payment on it
Okay.
to get everything going. We came back and said, all right, if we give you that 50%, is it gonna sit there in the corner of your facility? If we give you all of it, can you start refurbishing it? Because we do not want to give you money and then in 4 years from now or 3 years from now, you can call you up and say, yeah, we're out of business or we sold or all this other stuff. So Alex is open to a bunch of different things, so it just depends on basically what the chiefs and the commissioners want to feel comfortable with. I would personally like to see us get it going as quickly as possible,
I agree.
Yeah, I mean, a commitment from the village could simply be, hey, listen, what number are you willing to move forward with? Because I think the 2 to 2.25 is gonna be high.
Yeah.
I think it's really gonna be in the neighborhood of 1.8 to 2. But if they say, hey, listen, if it's over 2 million, we're not comfortable at this time, then so be it. But at least we need to get some commitment from them so that we can continue down this road. It is a bit of time of commitment and effort on our part to gather all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And things change, right? So,
If things change, 1,300 days is 3.5 years. Prices are going up. The delays are getting longer and getting them. So even if they were to decide today and sign the contract today, you're not gonna see it until 2029. And we need to remind them that shortly after that, you're gonna have to start planning on the other engine.
Alright.
So, otherwise, if they keep delaying it anymore, they're gonna end up with an engine and a ladder at the same time, at a much higher cost for both.
Okay.
so should we shoot for July to try to get this in front of them, or?
Discussion at a work session.
I would say July's work session would be best in hopes that Seagrave would come back with a quote saying this is what our park would cost.
Okay.
What day is that? So I can put that in my calendar. I guess we gotta get permission, right, to do that, or
To do what?
to put it in the
I'll
website?
just send an email to
You just
the,
have to get on the agenda.
I'll send an email to the clerk requesting a spot on the agenda to have a discussion about it.
So it would be the Monday prior to the commissioners meeting, correct?
The 7th then?
Yep, 7th.
And if you need someone to talk about it, like all the intricacies, I've been working closely with Alex and Denny from both companies, and whatever questions they need, I can answer or get an answer for.
Thank you. Anyone else on tower ladder? All right, moving to replacement engine, noticed that the chief in his department report stated that 412 is being lettered and it should be back this week. Is there anything to add to that?
No updates from, no.
Nothing else?
Nothing else. Jeff, you mentioned the weight of 411. I'll get it weighed, but I'm not gonna do it until 412 is in service.
Any particular reason why that was a concern,
What's that?
the weight on 411?
I just walking around it down at Riverfest, just came out, I think a weight. We used to get them weighed pretty regularly, once a year, I think.
Yeah.
When's the last?
It's due. It was weighed 2 years
Okay.
ago. There
So,
was
just-
a spare ton on the rear axle and 2 tons on the front axle.
I think it just covers if something ever happens. I mean,
Yep.
no concern, that I saw something.
Yeah,
I'm
no,
just,
I-
I'm just concerned that,
Yeah.
we had an accident and you just don't know. I mean, hopefully nothing will happen, but just for to keep on record
Yeah.
today with everything that goes on.
Absolutely.
That was an annual exercise?
I think we did, well, again, we had a mechanic that was a little different, a part-time mechanic where he overdid things, but I think he did it once a year,
I
You
think-
know-
I think it's actually recommended by NFPA to get them done.
and I don't know what NFPA is, but it's just something we should have, I think.
What are we looking for?
Just the weight.
Just
make
the
sure-
weight.
Just make sure we're not overweight.
I'm not sure, make sure we're not overweight.
As you put equipment and stuff on
Because
it.
you keep adding equipment
Right.
to this stuff, right?
Okay,
And it gets built in 2004 to this standard with this equipment.
okay.
And over the next 15 years, hey, we need this now, we need that, we need this.
Just to cover, or not, they all should be weighted,
Absolutely.
not just that one, they all should have.
Absolutely.
And to Jeff's point, I think Eugene had mentioned he'd looked at it and saw that the back end was sitting a little bit lower. May just need to have
Right.
the springs looked
Yeah,
at.
but just to be on the safe side,
So again, that is 21 years old now.
so.
And that rig in particular, we took some cribbing off it and put in some electric extrication tools. Not since it's been weighed,
Right.
but we add weight to it.
You
over
gotta
time.
remember now, that's the only thing that's, we have,
Mm-hmm.
so, until,
Thank you for the explanation. Anything else on 411 or 412? Training stipend law is up next.
Last month, the village board asked for, sort of analysis of what it would cost. That was in the email. And the past couple of years, $4,100 is roughly what it would have cost if the stipend had been in place.
I shared that with the Board of Fire Commissioners.
Yep.
Your analysis. I think there was something, Mike, you got something on that?
I think it's great. I really like the fact that the chief put those figures in there because they demonstrate that we don't have to worry about, destroying the budget with this improvement.
Won't stop me from asking for more, but.
Right. Because I think initially the board was concerned about how
Yeah.
much this would cost, and it just shows that it's not
think
substantial
it-
cost.
During the continuing discussions for this, it should be pointed out that training should be your number one priority outside of equipment and safety, look no further than the fatal fire in Florida, where a father and two of his children passed away. You know, those firefighters, they had to enter that building. They pulled two of them out. You know, and without the proper training, they wouldn't have had a chance at all. You know, that's where they have to understand training comes in big time. And even though we're a bedroom community, those fires can happen here. Jeff can attest to it. They had two children pass away back in '81, I think.
Yep.
At a fire. You know, so it can happen, and training is what is required to do the job.
I thought I had a note from last month that they were gonna speak about it last night, did they? Or did I dream that? The stipend didn't come up last night? I
The
thought,
training stipend did, not the investment, the night class did not come up last night.
what was this?
The night class did. They
And-
spoke about it.
And I brought up the
I'll let Chief talk about the training.
stipend last night.
More than just the numbers analysis?
No.
I thought the attorney was working towards,
He wasn't at the meeting last night.
okay. Anything else on the training stipend? Under new business, we have EV fire suppression equipment grant.
Have you heard from either Brain or?
No, I'm kind of just doing my own thing. I put together a request on paper. I'm getting some supporting documents from other organizations in the area that will support us and hopefully get us to be looked at. I have a whole bunch of quotes. I spoke with Assemblymember Ekus at the Memorial Day ceremony, and the outtake on that was don't be afraid to ask for more than what you initially planned on. So this EV grant has now kind of, all that is the main focus of it, has also turned into maybe a possibility of getting money for a UTV for community events like Riverfest, like the fair, like the ball drop, but also to help us out with any sort of fires or rescues in a wilderness landscape.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Be great to have.
yeah.
I recently saw something on EV fires, no blanket.
Exactly.
Blankets contain the gases and cause explosions. So I think we talked about blankets last month.
We did.
Yeah, so there is a standard that was put out by a fire chief at a manufacturing plant for electric vehicles. That they get maybe Mercedes or one of the bigger car companies. That he highly recommends that you just don't use the blanket. You use the blanket with the nozzle underneath. So hopefully you can contain and cool the entire environment in there, which makes sense in my mind. So the other issue that you have is that the fire service is just not progressing as rapidly as the electric vehicle industry is. That's not a here thing over in California. I think the assistant chief spoke to someone from over there. All their electric vehicles that were damaged in the wildland fires earlier this year. There needs to be a handful of crews to go in there and excavate any of the batteries and make sure they're not gonna ignite, all that stuff. So it's just a fire service thing in general. They're not ready for it.
Okay.
Those electric vehicles, I spoke to a resident from Cornwall that moved over there back in the 70s, happened to be visiting. He said that they have 7 different work crews that go in to deal with each car. They each have a specific job. And one of the things they actually have to do is flip the car over, to cut out the bottom of it to get at the batteries and remove them. and they have to be handled specially and moved away, disposed of. Says
So
it's not equipped.
7 teams attack an electric vehicle fire?
Well,
With different,
so once the fire's out,
right?
over there, because it's such a
I
mass thing,
understand.
because it's really a hazmat incident that
It is.
you know. For them to do it, they have 7 different crews that each have a specific assignment when they go in there
Okay,
to make the vehicle safe and ready to be disposed of.
interesting. Anything else on electric vehicles? All right, monthly membership report. Thank you for sending it out, Tom. Is that something you want me to keep on every month?
Yeah, I think it's appropriate that we,
Address it?
just to, keep you guys. I think Commissioner Buckus may have requested that a couple months back. We're gonna work on a training calendar to send out with that as well, just so you, are informed.
Thank
I
you.
think I put some in the training on the active members report of what we're doing in there this month. I'm gonna hopefully do some in-service training on the engine and, do proficiency later in the month.
Thank you for that. Could I ask you to put it on your calendar for a couple of days before the meeting to get it to me, because I'm doing
Yeah.
stuff the weekend before. All right, we'll try to figure it out if you can. Thank you. Anyone else on membership? Monthly department report.
Hello. I don't know, I don't see anything program.
Chief, can you talk about the boat, please?
The boat went out last week, wasn't operating properly, couldn't get it up to full power. Went up to Kingston for repairs. Marlboro, assistant chief handled that. Was a problem with the wiring harness, and the oil reservoir was not building up pressure. It's a two cycle motor on that boat, so there's an oil reservoir that feeds into the fuel. So the power was limited. They put a temporary cap on it, fixed the harness temporarily. When the parts come in, they'll come down and install them at the dock. But it's back today, and we just got to get back in the water now.
Thank you.
I would put back in service with the county. That's what I'm taking for a ride first.
Maybe a little ride just to.
I know we've spoken about the SCBA, that was included in the monthly report.
Yeah. I just want to keep it on the report. You guys need to know, the village needs to know that there's these expenses coming up. That's going to be a big chunk. And the timing's kind of nice. As Tom pointed out to me, 3M has come around and they're making the wire frame packs again, because people really like them. So we should be able to replace ours with those, but it's going to be costly if we can't get a grant to pay for it.
We also only have like 5 or 6 cylinders that are gonna be expiring within the next 5 years, so we don't have a bunch.
Jeff and Mike did a really great job when they were chiefs of getting those bottles, BSE bottles, onto a rotation, so we weren't losing 40 of them at the same time.
Where I sit, as far as the village board is concerned, you can pay for it, or you can hire someone to find out where to get the money from. Are there other options?
Not that I know of. Today's not the drop dead day, but it's coming soon.
A lot of those days on the calendar in the future.
They're not supporting the masks that we have anymore. Soon they'll not be supporting the packs themselves.
They're tested annually?
They are tested annually. They've been passing with, what is it, half a dozen repairs a year? Minor
Yeah,
repairs?
I would say during the flow testing, there's probably a handful of repairs that happen during the flow testing. But recently, we've been sending out to AAA probably 1 or 2 a month, just because of wear and tear. We're getting a lot of members to go through training now, and the type of drills we're doing at the firehouse. We're not being negligent of the equipment, but we're just being more active and actually training for what we're doing. So I think the one thing that we need to put together is a priority list. I know you have goals on there, but I think we should put something on paper. Say, priority 1 could be the tower ladder, but priority 2 is
SCBA.
SCBA, and
We want to get there, we want to be able to work once we get there? Is that what you're
Yeah.
thinking?
yeah, so and
And we want a firehouse to protect the equipment and members.
it's not like we
They're not luxury items.
don't want it, we need
I
it.
understand that. Right.
NFPA just changed I didn't just change, but they changed it within the past handful of years of the pass alarm now, instead of being at 1/4 of the cylinder, which our SCBAs are at now, they're at 1/3. Because they found that by the time you are working in the environment that you're working in, 1/4 of your cylinder is not enough time to get out.
Makes sense.
So
And it's not our equipment. We take care of it like it's ours, but it's the
Right.
village's equipment.
Absolutely. Anything else on the monthly department report? I shared the budget reports. Any conversation on those? Okay. Goals and priorities.
I'll reduce that to a list for next month.
Thank you. Under ongoing, I have outstanding equipment.
equipment.
Outstanding. We have to get stuff back.
There's a pager that was out, I think,
Oh,
I didn't address that. That's on me.
pending. Do you need anything from us on that yet? Okay.
I do think that when you do it, just make that kind of boilerplate letter. So as we address this again, we can just put a name and a date on there and send it. It's something that we can just do without having to think about it.
Makes sense. Anything under building repairs?
Been done.
Excuse me?
It's been done.
I think some follow-up has to be completed for the hood system and the new lighting in terms of completion of both projects.
Last month, hood was smoke test completed. We don't know.
Hasn't been done.
Okay. And lighting was ceiling tiles and such in the
Correct.
officer's office.
Well,
Oh,
it's in
no.
the
Were they-
meeting room and the lounge.
Yeah, wherever they put the new
Lights.
lights in, the old lights have to be removed and replaced with ceiling tiles. I believe the captain got a price for power washing the firehouse.
Yeah, you're like $1,200 power washing entire firehouse.
Inside, outside, basement.
Outside, like the old firehouse, the new firehouse.
Is that a service that we've done in the past?
Yes, and it should be done. I think it's showing its use. The doors definitely need to get done. I think the original firehouse, the 1903 section needs to get cleaned up as well.
Is that in your budget, chief? Is that handled by your budget? I know it's not your building.
Dave kind of controls that budget.
Okay.
Has that been addressed to Dave?
To be honest with you, if I'm gonna be completely honest with you, there's a lot of stuff that I hear, it's Dave's, Dave's in charge of it, and I know Dave's got a lot of stuff on his plate right now. And, it's just becoming a time where we need to start addressing it ourselves, and if Superintendent Halverson, can't address some of these things, these smaller ticket items, then we need to address it. And if he decides the voucher that it comes out of that budget, then it comes out of that budget. The big issue is that it's our guys that are dealing with the cleanliness, the uncleanliness, the structure itself. So, if someone's not there every single day seeing it, then they're gonna be like out of sight, out of mind type deal.
I will craft an email to him.
I have a topic on that. One of the main reasons I was told by the former mayor that they put Mr. Halverson in charge was the leadership on the other side of the firehouse, meaning the admin side, he wasn't thrilled with that leadership.
I'm lost. What's the admin leadership?
The president, vice president, and the board of trustees of the company.
The company officers. Okay.
So that's what he told me, and one of the reasons why they wanted somebody to sort of step up. But since then, the fire department, that side of the leadership has changed. In my view, I think it's changed to the better.
Yeah.
And maybe it's a conversation to have with the mayor that maybe Dave is like a third party, but let the president and his staff, his team, sort of come up with like these. They're in the building. They're there more than Dave.
I don't know about the former mayor's rationale about the president and the civil officers, but
That's what he told me.
maybe so. My rationale was the police chief's not taking care of the police station. The clerk is not taking care of this building. DPW is overseeing the buildings. They should be overseeing the firehouse too. And that still makes sense in my head.
Okay, but what Thomas has addressed, that things aren't getting accomplished, and again, Dave's not here, but again, it was another task that the village had put on to him with all his other commitments that he has to do. So, like Thomas said, he's not the one that deals with it day to day because it's the firehouse. I understand what your rationale is, but the firehouse operates different than the village office. Firehouse is 7 days a week, 24 hours. You don't know when something's gonna happen. Village office is the Monday through Friday with meetings at night maybe, so the firehouse is a whole different can, in my view, of how it operates, but.
I, in terms of the budgeting, I don't know that the president and the civil officers can legally oversee a village budget, because they're not officers of the village,
There is that.
such as the chief and assistant chief.
No, but they could schedule
They
it
could-
and make a phone call.
Correct.
And
I think that's,
I just think that something as small as power washing or paint or light fixtures,
Yeah, it's nothing major. It's not a major, it's not a major
We're
expense.
not gonna put a new wall in the back, we could just make a phone call or, meet up with
Correct.
the
Correct.
superintendent and say, hey,
correct.
can we do this?
Correct.
Is where they can coordinate things if they want, but they have to, hey, Dave, we're doing this. You let us know if you object to it.
Well, he has to sign the voucher, right?
Correct.
And it's all small ticket stuff, so it could be absorbed into the operation budget, no worries, so.
Going back to lighting, is it, so when I'm trying to craft this email in my head, is it more than ceiling tiles?
I don't think so.
Well, they just
Just
gotta,
connect.
they just gotta remove the fixtures that are there.
Yeah.
And
Put ceiling tiles up.
replace them with ceiling tile.
And I have a note from previous on hood lighting in the kitchen. Is that a,
That was a question I had. Can lighting be put into the hood that was just installed?
But going back to what Jeff was saying, would it be plausible for the company president or somebody in the company, instead of the chair of the commissioners, sending emails to Dave as opposed to the captain or one of us? I mean, is that something that
I
could work?
personally think that one of the commissioners should be oversight of buildings and grounds, and it could be part of their commissioner's report, if you wanna say, listen, I walked the grounds this month and this is what I found. And as long as you have it in your minutes, and this is not something I'm just coming up with, this is stuff that fire district uses, this is what, other organizations use, just something that, the more eyes that are on the issue, you get different opinions.
I don't disagree with that, putting eyes on it, but being responsible, being the liaison to Dave, that could be somebody in the company, right?
I don't agree with that. I don't think, like you said, a civil officer is right for that position. We're trying to establish the Board of Fire Commissioners as the village board, the Board of Fire Commissioners, the firehouse line officers. Am I wrong?
I think if we said, hey, officers or membership, we can do this, bring it to a commissioner, and the
I gotcha.
commissioner brings it to
That makes more sense.
whatever needs to happen. Because
Right.
I do not wanna have some of our members, and we all know who those, some of those members are, calling up Dave at, 5 o'clock at night saying, hey, you need to come
Or ever.
down here and do this.
Yeah, yeah.
Or giving them, a honeydew list of, as when Jeff was chief, there's been honeydew lists.
So you're like, filter it out, right, I got you.
And we're talking about subjects that are concerned, but they haven't addressed the cameras, the security of the building, which in my eyes is major, which we were told that he was going to do, which again, I'm not trying to beat up Dave, but there's only so many hats he can wear, so, if he said to Thomas and Thomas said, okay, I went out and I found, here's the quotes, whatever topic or whatever issue, and okay, can we do it? I'm not saying he has to do it, if he's gonna be the one signing, but that's fine, but let's make it a little quicker than just leaning on him all the time.
You bring up a good point, the cameras in the security system. What else are we missing that I can ask him about?
Showers?
I mean, I think the camera, that's, there's a lot of money on the apparatus floor, somebody just walk in and walk away with something, I mean, not that it hasn't happened, but, there's a lot of money out there on that floor, but. And I just think Dave is overwhelmed of other things, which I understand, but, I think under his impression is they told him that he's gotta do everything, listen, I don't know, when I was chief, I had people that did it and came back to me and said, okay, this is what we need to do. So,
I also don't think Superintendent Halverson will be, very emotional if I called him up and said, hey, looking to get the building tire washed, do you mind if I go out and do it, here's the estimated price?
Yeah, no, he doesn't have any issues
No,
with that. It's just,
no.
it's the,
that's where I think what Rick said, I think you gotta have a one person who's gonna do that, because today, and nothing against you, Tom, Thomas calls, okay, then the next day Charlie calls, and the next day Mike calls. You know, Mike sees him every day because he works. So now he's gonna be, like you said, a member pick up the phone and say, "Hey, Dave," you know, maybe one person.
Is it? No, but I can.
Do the,
And I think part of it also was to take that onus off of the firematic officers, because do we really want the captain or the chief looking to get, quotes on power washing the building when they're trying to get quotes for new apparatus?
No.
And new air packs and stuff like that. So,
do the civil officers have village email addresses?
No.
I don't think so.
They have, we've established some company email addresses.
Right,
So
stonekingfire.org.
the president is,
Right.
I forget how it ends.
President, Stone King fired on him. That's the vice president and
Well,
treasurer.
the reason I was asking is because the Board of Fire Commissioners that I created is an internal. I guess I could ask them to make it an external.
well, and not only that, but the fire company does have a firehouse improvement committee, which I think it would fall under. You know, and the trustees can, if they want something, they can, you know, present the list to your board and say, hey, this is what we'd like to see done. Let us know if you feel the same, and if you do, we'll move forward
Move forward how?
with getting Dave involved.
You guys would have to say, yes, we agree with that, we're
Right.
gonna get Dave involved.
And like, I'm willing to reach out to Dave with it, you know, what to
Yeah.
prioritize this. I can be that person.
Yeah,
I feel
that's
he'll
it.
respond to me. I mean, I don't know, but I
Yeah,
presume he will.
you know, the civil officers can come up with the,
I think firematic stuff like truck room,
Yeah.
all that, that's us.
yeah,
And I think, you know, lighting and where you hang out, that should be somebody else, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But then a whole list can be, you guys can decide what the priorities are, you
Yeah.
can give it to me, and I could work with Dave on that. I can
Mhm.
try that and see if it works.
mhm.
I think it's a good idea because it's continually falling through the cracks. And I apologize, but there's only so much that we can do at one time. But if it got on your radar, at least if you had a list of it and could try to follow through with it, I think that would be helpful.
Right.
So,
And probably also a recurring agenda item, so that we don't forget about things like the cameras in the key system.
specifics as agenda items?
Well,
Building maintenance.
buildings and grounds, but then whatever bullet points would be. Yes, the building maintenance as a bullet, agenda item, and then update it as necessary.
Yeah, but like a table that has everything in it, and then you can line it out, or, you know.
It shouldn't be, the volunteer firefighters shouldn't be saddled with building maintenance, you know what I mean?
I agree.
You know, you look on Long Island, they have district administrators that handle all that, you know, full-time people.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying we need that, but they have somebody that works for the district, and you kinda have to look at the village as the district in our
Mhm.
sense,
Correct.
that handles the building maintenance. Yeah.
And I thought of the admin, but she doesn't have an idea what goes on there, so that's not a good fit either.
She might do some of the coordination and communication, but
Yeah, or making a phone call to the repair guy or something.
All right, so how do we proceed from tonight?
I can go back to the trustees meeting that's going on tonight, and I'll speak with them about it. And then, I'll get either the president or vice president or whoever they designate to reach out to the board and say, how do we wanna go about this, or, you know.
Or have them come next month to the board meeting. But I think with security, I think Charlie, I think you should address that. The apparatus room, you guys are responsible for it. So if something happens on the apparatus floor, they're gonna come back to, they're not gonna go to the company president.
no, they're not.
They're gonna, I think you should designate or try to, you know, or I mean, I'll be willing to help, but I think that should be one of the top priorities.
I will start the cameras and the control system with Dave.
Thank you.
Okay, but this is the list that I have. The smoke test, the lighting, the power washing, specs from the engineer to fix the back wall, lighting for the hood, cameras and security.
Yeah, the cameras and security need to be at the top, and I'll start that with Dave.
Yeah, and I think we should try to button up the hood and
Yeah, well,
the,
yeah,
the
is
lighting
it-
before we do anything
Is
else.
the hood, so the hood's not technically, so you have a major fundraiser coming up in July where you're going to be using that equipment, so that would be another thing that should get, you know, done, you know. I mean, it was done prior to the April pancake breakfast, so now we're until June, so.
Do you want me to do anything on that list, or do you want to just take it?
I'm just gonna take the cameras and keys for the moment.
Okay,
I can work on the getting the lights out and everything else. 'Cause I can, in the worst case scenario is if DPW doesn't have time to do it, I can have someone else do it.
I'm gonna send him an email with those items, less the cameras and security in it, and ask him what needs to be done. Does he want us to help with anything or handle anything? And hope for a response. Is that okay?
Mhm.
Okay. Anything else on building and grounds maintenance?
Parking lot needs to get redone, but
Policies, bylaws, and guidelines.
No movement on that. But the company is working on the bylaws.
Anything else on policies? Any additional business?
you guys look really good on YouTube right now.
Did you guys receive your invitations to the dinner?
I did.
Yes, thank you.
Pretty sure I responded.
And our meetings being on the second Tuesday, sometimes it's great because it's just before a work session, but often it's after the village work session. I'd like to suggest that maybe a different day so that we're consistently before the work session. So we could have this discussion here and then bring it to the board.
I can't do first and third Tuesdays. Prior commitment. We'd
That
have,
first Monday.
we'd have to do, when do they meet?
They meet the second Monday.
Is it second and third? Not second, in my head it was second and fourth. Second and third?
Second and third. The only other thing you gotta look at is the zoning board and planning board. See when their meetings are.
Okay, I'll ask the clerk.
I'm not trying to force a change, it's just a suggestion,
It makes
it's
sense.
your meeting.
It
Yeah,
makes
then you
sense.
have to wait so long.
Village board is second and third Monday. Sure, our next meeting date as of right now would be July 8th.
And the village board meeting is July 7th.
Yeah,
Or is it?
example.
Yeah, it is.
The work session.
Work session.
Going back, I failed to make a motion to accept the monthly report. Can I have a motion on that?
Make a motion. we accept the
Second.
monthly report.
Okay, all in favor? Motion carries. On to adjournment. I'll make a motion to adjourn. Do I have a
Second.
second? Okay, all in favor? Carol, did you have anything? I didn't ask you, I apologize. Thank you for being here, I appreciate it.
I don't think the work session will be the 7th.
1857 conclusion.
Only because July 4th's on the
Friday.
Friday, so that means our meeting would be on the 2nd. That 7th would be the first Monday of the month.
Yeah, because the first would be Tuesday,